Welcome into the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio, 20 years strong. Yeah, I just like saying it. It's kind of fun. 20th anniversary here on the big program. And you know what? Right around this time, 20 years ago, we had a guest on that we've come to cherish, we've come to love. He's become a good friend of the program, and I'm pleased to have him back on the program today. He's got this shadow zine that I'm holding up if you're watching on video. It's issue number 11. We're going to talk about the topic here today, which is time travel. And I'll tell you, he's well established in our field. He's an esteemed member of our field. Jeff Belanger is an author, podcaster, storyteller, adventurer, and explorer of the unexplained. He's written more than a dozen books that have been published in 6 languages. He's the Emmy-nominated host, writer, and producer of the New England Legends series on PBS and Amazon Prime, the co-host of the weekly podcast of the same name, which you can find on the Darkness Radio Apple app as well. He provides programs and one-man shows to audiences all over the world, which you can find on his website, which there's a link to in the description of this program. Jeff has made media appearances on hundreds of radio and television programs over his 25-year career. He has a passion for mysteries and legends. And today, of course, we are talking time travel in the shadow zine on our program. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Darkness Radio. Jeff Belanger. Hi, Jeff.
Tim, good to be back with you. 20 years ago, we were younger then.
Oh, boy, were we. Ooh.
If we could go back in time, what would we do?
If we could turn back time, I think. Wasn't that Belinda Carlisle?
It's also on topic. I was trying to throw you a softball.
Oh, no, that was Cher. I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah,
you Cher. Yeah, that was Cher. Yeah.
Oh, God.
20 years ago. Yeah, I was just getting started and you know, you're like, you guys were like, yeah, let's do this thing. I'm like, okay, let's do this thing. And who would have known? We would have seen the rise and fall of the paranormal.
Oh, boy, oh, boy.
Too soon?
Yeah, well, no. Depending on who you're arguing with that day, I guess, right?
Look, when we started, it was underground.
Right.
We knew what to do. We
Yeah.
lurked in the shadows. We found our people. We formed our little groups and clumps and stuff, and we talked about our favorite subject. No one else was looking into this. So we got into it, you know, before the love of the game. And then it blew up. It went Hollywood. People were getting rich and famous. And we just, you know, sort of floated and hovered in and out of that space, you know, and always doing our thing because we always loved it. And now all the TV shows are done and whatever. And the events are getting lighter and people are fighting over scraps, those who used to make a lot of money. I'm like, you know what? I love that it's back underground. That's where we started.
Yeah.
We know what to do.
Yeah.
We know what to do. We know people still love this subject. It's just not pop culture as it was 10 years ago. But that's okay, because you know who's left? The hardcore.
That's right. That's right.
You know what I mean?
Let me ask
those that really love it.
Let me ask you this question, Jeff, before we move much further. You see big conglomerates swallowing big conglomerates now. And in the big conglomerate that owned a lot of the paranormal shows, Warner Brothers Discovery, just got bought this last week.
Yeah.
By another big conglomerate.
You know what's funny? I cut the cable. We've talked about this offline, but like, you know, I got a digital antenna so I can watch my football in the fall. Mm-hmm. And I have, you know, I have some of the streaming services. So, you know, I guess arguably I can still get some of those shows. But yeah, they're all swallowing each other up. And the reason is all these channels and a lot of the streams are getting their butts kicked by YouTube and podcasts and social media. And at some point, they won't be able to keep their nose above water. It's just what's going to change, right? I mean, no one under the age of 30, 35 watches broadcast television anyway, right? I saw a statistic the other day, which was so sobering. In 2015, something like 72% of households had cable TV. And in 2025, it was like 37%.
Ooh.
That is a staggering drop. And would you care to guess at the ages of the 37% who still have cable?
I'm going to, let me take a guess, 45 to 65.
Or older. Yeah. Right. But yeah, old people, right?
Yeah.
Like us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, we're in that group. But you know what I mean? Like, so it's like my parents are going to hold on to cable because it's all they know.
Yeah.
But as that generation dies off, that 36, 37% in 5 more years is going to be what, 20%? and then cable just won't be able to sustain itself. People still want to watch stuff. They still want content. That hasn't changed. That hasn't changed in thousands of years, since before there was TV or radio, for that matter. But how they consume it is the big question. And these phones are so addictive, and we know they're addictive, and we know they're not good for us.
Right.
But it's instant, dopamine hit the second you pick those things up. So let these things continue to gobble each other up. I will always be a fan of the independent, producers and publishers and content makers who are out there going, look, I love this stuff. I got something to say. And if enough people want to hear it, then I'm going to keep doing it.
How much is too much saturation, though?
I don't know. Where? What do you mean, though? Like TV, there's no saturation anymore. There's one show left.
Well,
so,
I'm talking about in the field in general, because if you take the internet and then combine it with what's left of streaming, how much is too much saturation? You talk about when we first started 20 years ago, and you're talking about maybe 10, 15 shows, right, that are out there on the internet.
You mean like podcasts and radio and stuff?
Podcasts, radio.
Yeah.
Now you're talking video casts. You're talking podcasts. You're talking, look at the people who are on TV who have now taken their shows and brought them to YouTube.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody now can have their own ghost hunting show if they choose. Everybody can have their own UFO watching show. Everybody can have their own Sasquatch show if they want. It just seems to me as how much is too much saturation, and how do you call the shaft or call the wheat? I mean, how do you weed everything out?
So, okay, short answer, no idea. Longer answer. When we were coming up, there was an older guard, right? There was Hans Holzer, there was the Warrens, there was Brad Steiger, there was Rosemary Ellen Guiley, right? There were established people that were writing books, that were out there. They were on the TV shows, like when they were doing documentaries, they were the expert talking heads. We had some people to sort of look up to, not many, but we had some real icons that came before us. And then people like you, people like me, we come up, like I started writing books. I got endorsements from some of those people, which was such an honor. And like, that's how you did it. You wrote books, you had a platform, you had a website, you had a radio show, you had a podcast, whatever. And then somewhere along the way, people sort of lost an attention span, and the only measure of knowledge became your TV time, right? We looked at to people who were on TV as the thought leaders. And which is, for it is what it is. Like, TV has always validated people in every field for as long as there's been TV. So I get that, but at the same time, like, and then our attention span got shorter and shorter because of the phone. So what I decided to do, and I made this decision really a couple of years ago, man, I'm going back. I'm going analog. Right? Like I believe in print again, and I didn't for a while. I'm like, forget books. What's the point? No one's reading them. But I think people are reading books again because people are appreciating that, like, hey, you can hold something. It doesn't need batteries. It doesn't, like, while you're reading it, no message pops up saying, oh, you want to go, hang out this weekend or check out this funny meme I just sent you. There's nothing to distract you. You have concentration. I've always loved audio. I've always loved radio and podcasting because you can listen while you're driving. You can listen while you're on an airplane trip. You can listen while you're cooking dinner or doing something else. And it's so intimate and it's so powerful. And I love that. I think that's a really cool thing. And I love live storytelling, live sharing of what I do, because AI can never replace that. And so I'm just kind of like, look, fine, I'll just embrace the old fashioned. I'm not, and whoever likes that, be they young or old, I don't care. All are welcome. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm trying to just kick it backwards. I'm not, so people have told me I don't have a TikTok account, and people are like, you should have a TikTok account and make TikTok videos. I know people who have hundreds of thousands of TikTok followers, and they spend hours making these videos, doing all kinds of things and whatever. And they can say, wow, I've got, 400,000 TikTok followers. And I'm just like, how many hours a day do you put into that? And what does it make you? Like, TikTok feels like, okay, you make a couple of bucks off of TikTok or whatever, not enough.
Yeah.
And yes, you can brag that you've got way more TikTok followers than the next person or whoever. You can compare and contrast with your numbers. But at the end of the day, you're feeding something that you're fine for literally 30 seconds and then they're off. And I'm like, I don't have it. I want someone with a longer attention span. I want someone who wants to sit down and read something, sit in front of me for an hour while I tell you stories and talk about research and what this might mean and all that other stuff. I'm just going to cater to people who have a longer attention span. That's it. I don't want to jump on the TikTok thing. But I also understand we have to be on social media to tell people what we do. So for me, it's kind of like a necessary evil, but at the same time, man, but I also think that's fine. We need something that's going to get younger people interested and doing actual research and stuff.
Yeah.
Like not just, posing in sexy clothes in front of a haunted building to get likes and shares,
Right.
But actually like try to dig in and do something and further the field and further the research. So if some TikToker gets someone into that and then they learn to actually do the research, cool. Whatever gets you in, I'm cool with that. But it won't be me on TikTok that gets you in. Maybe you'll discover me after you get in and you're looking for something longer to read, which is fine. I'm cool with it.
That's why I love someone like Joshua Darren, who actually brings you in, gives you a history lesson, and makes you want to look more into something. Someone like that on TikTok is someone who I will aspire to. And
Joshua Darren, who wrote Shadowzine number 7.
There you go.
Southern Haunts, a Black Perspective, which was cool.
A very cool issue.
Yeah.
But a guy like that who can hit you with a quick hit on TikTok and then say, go find more. It's out there. And that's someone who brings something useful to TikTok, something that will feed the mind and make you want more. Yeah.
And he's got a lot of followers, so that's good.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. He's a great resource and doing cool things. And I've had some cool discussions with him, since I first met him about just what he's doing and why he's doing it. And I said, for years, why aren't there more Black people in this field? You know what I mean? And like he said, it's like, well, it's representation. He's like, once he started seeing the Ghost Brothers and once he started seeing stuff like that, he's like, all right, this is for me too. And sometimes that's all it is. You just have to see someone else doing it and realize like, no, this is your space too. We all die, we all got stories and we all got cultural meaning to what these stories mean. And so, I love what he's doing, and I'm glad I got to do a Shadowzine with him too. That was cool.
Yeah, and he's so incredibly entertaining. I mean, just incredibly entertaining. So it's I love his stuff. And speaking of loving stuff, I love what you've done with this issue number 11 with time travel. So we're going to jump into this.
Sure.
So tell me, what was the genesis of this? What made you decide that number 11 was going to be on time travel?
So this literally 11 or 12 years ago, I started writing a time travel book, a book about all the because the idea was, what could explain everything paranormal? You know what I mean? Like I've never seen Bigfoot. I have seen a UFO. I've seen ghosts. I've interviewed people who've seen Bigfoot and other cryptids. I don't think they're lying. There's nothing to gain. Mm-hmm. So I was just like, this stuff is happening. And obviously it's a profound effect on various people. So what does it mean? And what could explain it all? And to me, I was like, time could explain it all, right? I mean, ghosts are obvious. You see a ghost, a Civil War soldier, like that does not belong in our present time. It belonged in the 1860s. Cryptids like Bigfoot or a lake monster or whatever, that may have made perfect sense a few million years ago, right? Somewhere on the timeline. And UFOs and aliens, to me, that's the one, right? So why do gray aliens look so human? Why do they have a head with 2 eyes in the front and a little nose and a mouth and arms and legs and stand upright and have fingers and toes? We look the way we do because we evolved on this planet with this amount of gravity, this distance from the sun and whatever. And why would an alien come all the way here? What is here that's so interesting besides our pizza, which is fantastic?
Oh, it's wonderful. Yeah.
Best in the galaxy. Yeah. Have you had better anywhere else?
No, I can't say I have.
No, this is the place. I get that. But why come here? Like, who has a vested interest in us more than us? And so one thing that would make sense to me is that if it's all on the timeline somewhere, UFOs would be future, Cryptids would be past, and ghosts, of course, would be past. Sometimes distant past, sometimes a few weeks ago, right? Like that. So whatever it is. And so I was trying to come up with this sort of unified theory, and I got like 30,000 words in on that book. I even talked to a publisher. I was going to get a book deal, and then I didn't like the terms. It was sort of fell apart. I was getting really disenfranchised with publishing at that time, and I walked away from it and just left it in a drawer. And then I was thinking like, well, time travel will probably get invented at some point, and I'll just go into the future, buy my book off the shelf, and then come back and just type it out. It'll save me a lot of trouble. And that has yet to happen. And I was like, I've got this vehicle. Let me put this out there and sort of see how it flies. Because I also have like a one-man show based on time travel, which is so fun. Because you have to talk about the nature of time and what it is. And so it was just one of these things where I opened up that old document from like 11, 12 years ago, and I was like, there's a lot of good stuff in here that I really, really like. And I'm like, I've got this vehicle called Shadowzine. I'll do one. And so it just felt like this is the time to start talking about it again. At least it's something different, especially for me, although not radically, but a little bit different. And it's just really fun to sort of speculate on what could be happening.
Well, and what's interesting in the Shadowzine, you do a nice little job of kind of introducing us to just basics of time, because it's real easy to get lost in it, right? It's real easy to get lost in the concepts. And, especially like if you're a comic book reader, they do a real good job of screwing up your mind as to what's actually scientific and what's just stuff they threw against the wall to get you to read the comic and follow along with the plot in order to get you to where you want to go.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of mistruths out there as to what it is and a lot of scientific truth as to what it is. And you do a good job in the Shadowzine of explaining what exactly is real and what's not real and what you can do and what you can't do, right?
So I was thinking about this a lot, right? So let's go back, 100,000 years ago. And early humans, time is measured probably in moon cycles, right? Like that. I mean, there's no appointments. It's not like, hey, we're going to go hunt a gazelle at 2 p.m. And time is measured in seasons. Oh, the rainy season's coming. We have to migrate. We have to move. Now, as soon as we started farming, as soon as humans said, you know what, we're not going to hunt and gather all the time. We're not going to keep moving. We're going to stop and try to put down roots, which is between 10 and 12,000 years ago. Time now becomes super important, right? Because they say farming is the most important innovation in human history. I'm not going to argue with that. But I would say right on the heels of farming is timekeeping, first calendars. And if you're going to farm, the calendar is critical, right? So you need some sort of astronomical calendar to know when the sun sets and lines up on these two stones, we plant these specific seeds because that gives us the best yield. We've measured it season after season, year after year, generation after generation, and we know this is the best. When the moon rises on these two stones, we know we should harvest. That gives us the best yield. We should hunt certain animals at this time because they've had a chance to procreate, and then we'll have food, and there'll be more food for next year. You have got to get in sync with your environment if you're going to stay put. You got to know the seasons. You got to have food stores. You've got to know when to grow, when to plant, when to harvest, and all that other stuff. Yeah. Time would have become a lot more critical, but that's in like days and weeks and months time, not by hour. By hours, and I think we all understand time is a construct. It's nothing. It's not real at all. It's not a force in the universe, right? It's made up. 24 hours in a day is only on Earth. Maybe there's some other planet out there that spins at exactly the same rate, exactly the same size, possible, but we haven't found it. But Mars or Venus or whatever, it's not a 24-hour day. So we've decided to break up our day because as we've gotten more and more advanced, we need to make appointments. We need train schedules. One of the things that I've talked about, I think I mentioned it in the Shadowzine. For a while, sundials were pretty good. When it's noon, it's when the sun is at the highest point in the sky. Well, when the sun is at the highest point in the sky in Boston, it is not at the highest point in the sky in New York, which is not that far away, right? It's about a 12 or 13 minute time difference between, solar noon. And no big deal if it's 150 years ago and you live in Boston and your friend lives in New York. So what, But if you're going to start traveling between the two, and when that trip, when you could travel at the breakneck speed of 6 to 8 hours on train, the schedules start to matter. And so the further and further we've come into the future, time is now so important. Time and timekeeping. And so, but it is still a construct, even though we have literally enslaved ourselves to this fake, not real thing. We work from 9 to 5. I'm talking to you at 1 o'clock. I've got a dentist appointment at 3, whatever it is. Like, we have enslaved ourselves to this. But the question remains, could we move, even though it is a construct, could I get back to another point in time and space, or could I go forward to another point at time and space? That's the big one. And physics tells us we can. It does not defy the law of physics. Not easy. We know how to travel into the future. That one you do. If you've ever been on a commercial plane, you have literally traveled at a different time dilated speed than on the ground, because you're traveling at 500 miles an hour. You're at 36,000 feet. We're talking micro fractions of a second. But indeed, on the International Space Station, it's a little bit more, right? If you stayed in the space station, I forget, it's like to gain a second, you'd have to stay up there for something like 100 years, right? To gain 1 second on the ground. So if we can just go fast and get away from large gravitational objects, we can travel into the future by dilation. So if you can get near the speed of light, travel in space for a year, when you come back, many years will have passed on Earth, and you will have only aged 1 year. And, your twin brother on Earth will have aged many years. That's dilation. So we know how to do that. But could we go back? And that is the big question, right? And then you get into the paradoxes, which I just adore the paradoxes, right? The idea that, and the grandfather one, I think, is the most basic that people understand. If you go back in time and kill your grandfather before he ever met your grandmother and thus never had children, what happens? And your mind starts to, right? Because you're like, well, you can't, because you had to have been born to go back to kill him. But if you kill him, you would have never existed in order to go back and do that.
Well, let's put a pin in that for a moment, because we're coming up on the break. But one thing I wanted to bring up before we go to break is this. You brought it up just a few minutes ago, but I want to bring it up just briefly again before we go to break, and that's this. We've been talking about the Artemis project going to the moon. That's been kind of shelved back a little bit in stages now this past week. There's not a lot of time difference there from here to the moon, but the project to Mars is another one. Now, we talk about communications between here and Mars. You mentioned Mars doesn't have the same time structure as we have. So a day there is not a day here. So how do you keep the same time schedule if you're communicating with Mars?
Cell phone, right? So like you got it's a clock, right? You agree on universal, mean time or whatever, and you can have a clock, and so you just sync up and say, and if you need 8 hours of sleep, you just have to understand on Mars you might be sleeping while it's light on certain days. And then eventually you're going to be sleeping while it's dark. And then eventually it'll be half dark, half light, and so on, right? Because if you want to keep some sort of schedule, then you just would have to live by this artificial clock that hangs on the wall. And maybe you sync it up with Houston, whatever you choose, right? But yeah, it's not going to be the same for you. That planet is spinning faster. It's smaller. So yeah, no, it's everything is different and everything is relative, which is what Einstein taught us. I thought, and I know we're up against the break, but I thought time, whatever it is, whatever universal clock you want to think about, has always existed. If you want to go back to the Big Bang, well, the clock was whatever imaginary clock was ticking before that. And after the Earth crumbles and turns to dust and the sun implodes and all that other stuff, time will continue. It's just we won't see it. We won't be around to sort of witness it. That's true if you believe in Newton's law of physics, right? Like Newton would have bought into that there's a universal clock. Einstein would tell you there's only a universal clock if it's right next to you. So if you're in some like capsule with a clock right next to you, watching all this for billions and billions of years, sure, your clock will just keep ticking, but it's relative to you because time isn't real. It's just a construct. But time, space, That's something that's the fabric that's between all of us. And we use time space all the time, all the time. If I said to you, where's the closest pizza place? And you tell me, oh, it's 15 minutes down the road. I asked you a question in distance. You answered me in time, but I know what you're saying.
Right.
Like 15 minutes, I assume by car, right? We drive 15 minutes down the road and we will get to the pizza. And so we do that. We have an understanding that it takes a certain amount of time to cross a distance. And so we think in time space already. But that fabric is fabric. Mm-hmm. It can bend, it can fold, and it can wave. And if it waves, could the past bump into the present or the present bump into the past, temporarily at least? And the answer is, yeah, it absolutely can.
And you're right. We do that as well as talking about how long it takes to get to planets. It's so many light years away.
Right. Light years. That's time space.
Yeah, it's time space. Right. Exactly.
Yeah, there is a number that's kilometers or miles or whatever you want to use. But, well, how long is it going to take us? Well, at present technology, it'll take, so many months to get to Mars.
Yeah.
Yeah. We already think that way.
Yeah, exactly. All right. When we come back, let's talk paradoxes. And we'll talk about that. We may get into some scenarios as well as to whether certain paranormal phenomena are real phenomena or time phenomena. We'll do that as well with our guest, Jeff Belanger. Here it is right here, Shadow Zine number 11. I have it in my grubby little paw right here, and we've got it, and Jeff has it as well on his end right there. We'll have a link in the description of this program, so you can go get it, and we'll have a link as well to Jeff's website. He also still has his book out there as well, Wicked Strange. Your guide to ghosts, monsters, oddities, and urban legends from New England. So we want you to check that out as well. So that's a good book as well. A beautiful book. Lots of great pictures from Frank Grace, I believe, as well.
That's it.
In that
Thank
book.
you.
So we want you to check that book as well. But Shadow Zine, we're talking about this Shadow Zine and time travel today with Jeff Belanger. When we come back, paradoxes and paranormal phenomena. Is it just a timey-wimey thing? We'll check that out when we come back next here on the Best in Paranormal Podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. Welcome back to the Best in Paranormal Podcasting. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. My guest is Jeff Belanger. This is what we're talking about here, folks. It's Shadow Zine number 11. It's put out by Jeff Belanger. We have a link in the description of this program so you can go get it. Its subject is time travel, which is our subject today with Jeff. And we're going to jump into paradoxes right away, my friend. You were teasing it on the other side of the break. Everybody says, you know what? If I had one wish and I had my way, I would go back and do blank.
Kill baby Hitler.
Exactly. That tends to be number one, right? Go back and
although, Hitler's starting to get some competition lately. Baby Hitler's no longer alone. Yes, go back and kill baby Hitler. But first, Tim, if you wouldn't mind, if it's okay with you,
sure,
could we go back and kill your grandfather?
What?
What? What's the problem?
I'm partial to my grandfather.
Before he had kids, you'd never know. This is the grandfather paradox. This is the one I think most people know. Mm-hmm. If you go back in time and kill your grandfather before he had children, what happens? And you say, well, you can't because you had to be, you must not have done it because you had to be born in order to do it. If you do kill him, then you never would have existed. Whew, you're gone, right? So, here's the thing. If you believe that time is purely linear, that it's a single line that like Newton, right, that goes forever in the past and forever into the future, and we're somewhere in the middle right now, then time travel just can't be for you. If you can wrap your head around a multiverse, then time travel becomes absolutely something plausible. The multiverse suggests that every possible variation is out there right now. For example, you walk down the street and you come to a T intersection where you could go to the right or you could go to the left. You pause for a moment and you decide to walk to the left. Fine. There's a whole other universe that exists where you made a right. And that's just you making one teeny tiny little decision. You make a million decisions all day long. Animals, other people are all making, trillions upon trillions of decisions every single day. Simple stuff. and there's a universe that exists had you done the other thing. Schrodinger came up with such a great thought experiment about this. This guy named Erwin Schrodinger said, these guys are just batty, right? They're coming up with this idea that things can exist in dual states at the same time. So Schrodinger came up with a thought experiment where he puts a cat into a box. It's a hypothetical thing. He didn't really do it. Imagine the box is light-proof, soundproof, airproof, but there's enough air for the cat to last 1 hour. And there's a molecule in there that might disintegrate. If it does, it'll release a tiny bit of radioactivity that'll trigger a Geiger counter that'll release a chemical that will kill the cat. There's a 50-50 chance of that molecule disintegrating in the hour. 50% it could, 50% it couldn't. So at the end of the hour, is the cat alive or dead? Schrodinger would tell you it exists in both states. It's alive and dead at the same exact time until you open the box and observe it. Once you observe it, the other state collapses. So if you see the cat is alive, the state where the cat is dead is gone. It doesn't exist. If you see the cat is dead, the state where the cat is alive. And Erwin Schrodinger thought like he was making fun of people, and all the like theoretical physicists were like, yes, you get it. And he's like, what? You know?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, that's it. That's it. That's exactly it. It exists in equal states. If you go back in time and kill your grandfather, it'll be okay. I mean, it's wrong on a bunch of levels, but what happens at that moment is the universe splits. There's the universe where you were never born, you never existed, your grandfather never met your grandmother, never had kids. And then there's the universe where that never happened, where he met her, had kids, you were eventually born. So nothing changes on your timeline. You just altered a different timeline. So let's go back to Hitler, everybody's favorite baby target. Let's say I've got a time machine and I'm like, Tim, one trip, where you want to go? And you're like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go back and kill baby Hitler. I'm on it. I'm doing this. And I go, okay, all right. Yeah, we'll go back to the year where he was like 1 year old. You don't want him talking to you too much. 1 year old, you're going to go kill a baby. And we send you back. So you go into the machine and take as much time as you want. You could take a month to do it. It doesn't matter to me. Because from my perspective at the time machine, you'll be gone for like 1 second. You know, you'll go, whoop, you'll be gone, do whatever it is you got to do. And then whoop, you come back and you go, Jeff, I did it. I killed Hitler. I killed baby Hitler. And I'm going to say to you, who? Who's Hitler?
Right.
What are you talking about?
Right.
Who's Hitler? And you go, Hitler, the most evil man ever, killed all these people, like concentration camps. Who? What are you talking about? Right? Yeah. Or I'll say, no, you didn't, Tim. Look at the history books.
Yeah.
Right. But you did. I did kill Hitler. I did it. I strangled the little son of a gun. Right. I know.
It's interesting that I got up close and personal with him, but yeah.
So I've killed your grandfather. I've made you into a baby killer. Anyway. So you altered a timeline that is not ours. Right? You killed Hitler, and Hitler never existed on this other timeline. And who knows, someone much worse may have come along. We have no idea. But on your timeline, it would be unaffected, which means anything you would tinker with in the multiverse is not really going to matter, because you will just create a new universe that's going to go in a different direction, and the one you're from won't change. So Stephen Hawking, the great physicist whose name was ruined in the last few months.
Yes. Yeah.
For a little island he cared to visit. He had this idea, the chronology projection conjecture, the idea that time travel to the past is possible, but the universe won't allow it to keep the world safe for historians. The funny thing about that is that what he more or less said is that, and Hawking, by the way, was a pretty devout atheist. And what he more or less said was, yeah, God won't allow it. Right? I mean, that God would have to step in and say, no, that's no good. This is where it just gets so mind-bending, because physics does not say it's impossible. But could you, would you, should you? Could you get back? If we got you back to that space and time, could you get back to the present? These are all the big questions. Now, there's a physicist at the University of Connecticut that came up with another theory that said time travel may be possible, but the furthest back you can go is the minute the time machine becomes viable, because now it's in the universe. And so if it's today at 2:30 p.m., The furthest you could ever go back is today at 2:30 p.m. Right, as soon as it's finished.
Okay.
Which makes actual some logical sense, sort of.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So okay. So now there's a time machine in the universe. Now you can go back to here, but not before. So you still can't get to baby Hitler or any other babies.
Okay.
So and by the way, we have yet to come up with any sort of time machine, although the Hadron Collider and stuff like that is getting close to where particles seem to be existing in two places at once. And if that's true, then it's getting dicey, Tim, man. We're gonna need some of that stuff you keep, in the nightstand to get too much deeper.
Well, I've always had a problem with the Hadron Collider. I'm not going to lie.
Okay.
But I always thought that if you're smashing atoms. That's never a good thing, right? I mean, you're going to open up something eventually.
Yeah. Wow. We created a black hole. How cool. Uh-oh.
Yeah. Whoops.
Yeah.
There goes the planet.
If we all suddenly flash out of existence, they succeeded.
Yeah. They did something bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. The old whoops that comes from the other side of the world.
Yeah. You hear this oops echo as everything just goes dark and we're gone.
Yeah. But the thing that always, I guess, kind of fascinated me about the whole traveling backward thing is this. I mean, I always was of a mind that, and from watching these different time travel shows, Quantum Leap and things like that, you always get the idea that you could travel, but you had to be a passive observer, or maybe you could travel back, but no matter what you did, you couldn't affect the time stream. No matter what you did, time was going to move forward and things were going to develop the way they were going to develop. No matter what you tried to influence, it was almost like destiny was going to move forward, right? You had mentioned earlier about, and there's the old saying of nature abhors a vacuum. So if you were to take out Hitler, let's say you take out Hitler, well, of course, something bigger and badder will come in and fill the void, right? Because
it could,
nature isn't going to allow that, there was supposed to be something there in that time frame that was supposed to do what it was supposed to do, right? So if you take out that horrible influence that was supposed to be there, well, nature goes, you know what? We'll find something bigger and badder.
Yeah, something will fill in. So there was a guy I interviewed, but you interviewed him first on Darkness Radio years ago, Andrew Bashago.
Yes.
Who claimed he is was part of a Project DARPA time traveler. And he said there's a photo. There's only one known photo in the Library of Congress of the Gettysburg Address. It's taken at a distance. You see a crowd. You see a teeny tiny little black top hat, and that's 99% sure that's Lincoln, right? Yeah. But you can't make out any details. However, right in the forefront, there's a young boy, 10 or 11, with like this blurry face, because shutter speeds back then were very long, and if you moved at all, you were blurred. Yep. So this very blurry face. Andrew Bashago claims that's him. Claims he was there. He was there at the Gettysburg Address, and he got to go there as a treat, kind of like a treat from his dad of being part of this project that, young children could handle time travel better. And this was, the 60s or 1970s or something like that. I believe he said he was doing this. They had teleportation down, all this stuff. Now, he tells a good tale.
Yes. Yeah.
I was not capable of believing him personally, right? I'll just tell you that. I couldn't get there. But here's the thing that I brought up. I'm like, all right, let's say I do believe you. This photo, the day you were born, existed in the Library of Congress. Your little baby Andrew, and this photo exists in the Library of Congress. And then you get older, and I'm like, so it seems to me you didn't have free will. You have to go back and be in that photo. You have no choice whatsoever.
Right.
You had to do it, or else you have to. Yeah. Like you don't have free will, and free will is the basic foundation of everything, right? That all the religions, tell us we have free will. We have free will. And he came up with an answer that it didn't satisfy me. He's like, no. I just fulfilled something. I'm like, no, you had to do it, right? Or the photo can't exist.
Right.
This in the Shadow Zine, the example I use is much better, I think, out of modern pop culture. Somewhat modern. The movie's pretty old now, but Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. My favorite scene in the whole movie requires zero special effects. All the great historic figures are in jail, and Bill and Ted are like, oh no, like all of our buddies are in jail for causing a riot at the mall. How do we break them out? And of course, one of their dads works for the police department. He's like, well, we could steal your dad's keys. Oh, they've been missing for 2 days, And he's like, well, we have a time machine. We could go back before when he had his keys, steal them, and bring them back here and put the keys right behind the police sign. But we'll do it like after we do the show and get our good grade and pass and get all these people back. We'll just do it later. We can do that. And then when we come here now, the keys will be right here, and they hold up the keys, right? Which is brilliant. I love that so much. But at that moment, they just caused a mighty rift. They lost free will.
Yeah.
They have to do it or the keys won't be there, right? They have no choice now. They have to do it. They've lost free will. And I'm just like, oh, that is just right.
Yeah.
And so if they go, no, we got our friends out. We did the thing. Forget it. I'm not going back. You have to. The keys were there.
Yeah.
Right. I love that so much. Like, these things are such mind benders, these paradoxes. One of my favorite ones is a future travel paradox. And I put it in there. But so let's say I've got a time machine and I go forward in time, like just 5 or 6 years, not that far. And I find a best-selling book. Like this thing is outsold Harry Potter, movie rights. The author's going to make millions and millions, probably billions of dollars eventually. And I buy the book and I come back to present day and I hand it to myself and I wink and I go, here you go. And I go home and I type that thing over word for word, every word. I plagiarize every comma, every period, every word. And I hand it to my agent. My agent goes, I love this. I know just who should see it. The publisher buys it. A couple of years from now, the book comes out and it's a smashing hit. Who wrote the book? I ask you, Tim, who wrote the book?
Well, it wouldn't have been you if you went to the
I stole it. I didn't write it.
You stole
no way.
it.
I ripped it off.
But it would have been the person in the future who wrote it. But
no, they didn't think of it yet. That was a few years in their future. They hadn't written it down yet. Who wrote this best-selling book? So something came from nothing?
Right? Right. I did a show like this where I had talked to Steve Vai about where he got his inspiration from, if he drew it from a creative source or creative well from, it's an interesting concept, right?
Dude, so I've heard creative people talk about like there are ideas that just float in the ether.
Yeah.
And I know this is a very metaphysical way to look at it, but I also, as a creative person, I sort of get it, right? That sometimes ideas come to you and you're like, oh, like you ever get an idea, you're like, that's a really good idea for a project.
Yeah.
But not for me. Right? You know what I mean?
Right.
You're like,
right.
Oh, like I've thought of book ideas. I'm like, that would be a great book. I don't want to write it. It's too much work. Like it's got to speak to something deep inside of you for you to say, this is my idea. So the idea sits with you. It's almost like a butterfly or a bee lands on you and says, whispers this idea. And you go, that is really great. Really great. But I don't think it's for me. I don't feel the passion for it. And then the butterfly or bee goes, okay. And then it flies to someone else.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, a few years later, you might see that book or that idea come out somewhere and you go, I thought of that years ago.
Yep.
Sure you did, but you didn't grasp it. Right. And so the idea moved on to another vessel that could make it happen. And I'm like, there's a lot of truth to that. Like there just is. So I get it. This thing from the past, present, future, I don't know. This thing floats around until it finds a home, finds a vessel to fulfill it. And your job is to seize the idea that speaks to your soul and say, no, it's mine. Don't go anywhere else. I'm going to see this one through. And the idea goes, all right, cool. You're my parent now. Like, let's do this. And so yeah, I love that. And so anyway, to bring it back around.
Okay.
The paranormal stuff. One of the reasons I started down this rabbit hole is because my website, ghostvillage.com, which I started in 1999, thousands of people were sending me their ghost stories. And I sort of noticed they started to fall into categories, right? I saw a loved one, there was interaction. Stone tape theory or residual haunting, just a movie that plays over and over. Another was like it happened while you were sleeping. They fell into buckets. I could sort of find buckets for each one. Eventually, though, I got an email from this guy named Jeff Vashon, who said, I got a weird one for you. I went to play tennis in Cambridge, Massachusetts, right? Basically in Boston. And me and my buddy were in my Honda Civic, and we were told these tennis courts were in this neighborhood. We pull up, we see this cop who looked like he was dressed like kind of funny and said, do you know where the tennis courts are? They're like, oh yeah, just right down the street here. And they said, great. They pulled up, they saw the tennis courts, and they say all these people in tennis whites. They're like, nobody dresses like this now. Everybody had on tennis whites. And they said, this must be like some old time reenactment group that comes out here with old fashioned rackets and balls and plays tennis. But all the courts are full. So I guess we'll just hang out and wait for a court. And they get out of their car, they shut the door, and the people are gone and the tennis courts are gone. And they look at each other and they go, what happened? We saw the whole thing. They do some research, would later learn there were tennis courts there that were pulled out in like the 1950s. They were gone. It was just an empty lot. And so they're like, okay, wait a minute. That's not really a ghost encounter. They, if anything, they were out of place.
Yeah.
They had stepped into a scene. We might call that a time slip, right? Where you saw another scene. I would collect others over the years. Very rare, way more rare than seeing grandma who died or like, a Civil War soldier or something like that. Once in a while, someone seemed to have stepped into a whole other time and place, including some sort of acknowledgement. I talked to one guy who said he walked into this bar with his wife that dates back to the 1880s. It's got neon signs, electricity, the game's on TV. He said as soon as the door shut behind him, his wife was gone, and there's candles. There's no TV, there's no electricity, and he's a gun enthusiast, so he recognized the sidearm of this guy sitting at the bar who literally turned and kind of looked him up and down like, do I know you? And then looked back because he didn't. And he said he's looking around going, what is going on? And then just a couple of seconds and then it's back. Modern bar, TV, electricity, his wife's there again. He's like, I think I stepped back into this bar in maybe 1890, something like that. And then instead of 2010 or whatever. And I'm just like, that's amazing. So if there's a multiverse where the past and the future and alternate presents are all floating around like soap bubbles, maybe sometimes these bubbles bump into each other just a little bit. We see them, maybe they see us, maybe one side or the other, and then it's gone. And then those bubbles sort of separate again, and we're left as things are normal. Maybe there's spots where the bubbles touch often and it comes up again and again. Maybe there's a spot where like that lake monster, which made perfect sense, a few million years ago, bumps into our lake, makes its, is seen and then is gone. And that's why you don't find the dead carcass or anything, because it's not here anymore. It was here and then it's gone.
I was going to say, is one of those spots maybe like Tombstone, Arizona, where you see a lot of hauntings and period hauntings?
So places like Tombstone or Gettysburg, for that matter, places that are, big tourist areas that also look and feel the way they did during their time. There's something to that. And I think part of it is that, that's our mental state. When we're there, we feel like, oh my God, I'm walking in 1870 or whatever, right? I feel like I'm here. I mean, I've been to Tombstone. You've been to Tombstone, right?
Yeah.
I remember walking down the street going, wow, that's the third Wyatt Earp I've passed.
Yeah.
It's not a big town.
No.
You're like, I was only 2 blocks to the next Wyatt Earp, and you're just like, for all I know, one of them was the real one, right?
Right.
Like you're pushing them on the shoulder, like, oh no, okay, sorry. Yeah. Wouldn't that be great if you're like Wyatt Earp, the time traveler? You're like, no one will believe it, right? Let's just think I'm a reenactor. This is great,
right?
I do think because we are so surrounded in that time and space, maybe it's consciousness. Maybe our consciousness sort of projects back and we have a whole scene or a time slip or a ghost experience because we're so close to what it looked and felt like. And we're sort of living and breathing it temporarily. Maybe.
I think so. I think it's probably easier for our consciousness to slip to the left and go into their time than it is for maybe, you know what I mean? for us to just kind of jump.
So one of the other things, right, is that you're just like, okay, so if we're bumping into the past, you'd think someone would write that down. Hey, I saw a guy with like this weird sweatshirt, this weird sweatshirt with like a logo that said like, Eat at Joe's Crab Shack. What the heck does that mean? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I don't know. Like, what does this mean? And then write it down. And then years later, we read it and go, well, what does that mean? And then I started reading the Bible, Tim. Ezekiel, not 25:17, but the Ezekiel ship.
Yeah.
is described in great detail in the Bible, and it's what makes it, the Bible's full of metaphor and stories and parables and stuff like that. The Ezekiel ship is so descriptive in its like glowing flames, its shield, its wheels within wheels, its like human looking figures moving back and forth and stuff like that. It sounds like a craft. And it sounds like someone who's never seen anything like that doing their best to describe it, using their best language to say, this is what I'm seeing, right? This thing that doesn't compute or make any sense. And I was thinking about this. I'm like, imagine one day if time travel's possible, one of the first things people would want to do with that is go back and validate their faith, right? They'd want to go back and say, I want to meet Jesus. I want to go back and prove that it's all real, that I was there, I stood there, whatever. And you're like, I want to see the Ezekiel ship. So your time machine flames out of the sky. It comes down because we know about where, we know about when this happened. We don't know an exact date, but we've got an idea. And your ship comes down and you're in spacesuits, because if you're going to travel back in time thousands of years, there could be bacteria that could kill you. Yep. Or you could introduce bacteria that's fine today, but would kill them. So you're in a suit to keep it safe, and you're looking all around for the Ezekiel ship. And all of a sudden, there's this old guy on the hill looking at you, writing everything down. And you go, oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. I'm the Ezekiel ship. Get out of here before we mess something up.
Right.
And you're like, uh-oh. Well, I guess I'm in the Bible. So maybe there is evidence. Maybe it's in the Bible and they use their best descriptive language and interpret it as coming from God or the heavens, because a thing with fire that lowers from the sky with humans inside, it's got to be from God, right? That can't possibly be, something that we made. We don't know anything like that.
Very true.
So maybe there are little hints of evidence. There's old cave paintings, that show people with like circles around them and like, antenna or something sticking out. Mm-hmm. It looks sort of like a spacesuit.
Yep.
What if that's what they saw and they drew it on a cave wall and said, that's my best guess of what it is that I saw. So maybe there is evidence out there that we have visited the past.
You allude to in the Shadow Zine, and by the way, this is a Shadow Zine number 11. If you're watching on video, I'm holding it up right now. That Jeff Belanger's put out. We have a link in the description of this program. You allude to Tic Tac UFOs, and
yes,
there's one, and I don't know if you've seen the movie. It's been out for a while now. A Terror in the Sky that Caroline Corey put out.
No, I haven't seen that one.
Okay, there's a scene, and she's got a bunch of scientists on the Catalina coast. They're filming in infrared. And they're showing, and this is what's important, and this is what I wanted to bring up with you today. As they're filming an infrared off the coast of Catalina, they're showing these Tic Tacs coming through a portal. And there's a bunch of them spilling out of this portal out, and you can only see it in infrared. But they're coming out of this portal, and then they're spilling out over the ocean. And it got me thinking as I was reading the Shadow Zine. Now, is this portal a time portal? Because essentially scientists have said they don't believe wormholes exist now. They don't think they think that wormholes are just a mathematical thing. So they don't think wormholes are a physical thing that you can travel from one end of the universe to the other. So as I'm sitting here and we're talking, I'm thinking, well, then is that a time thing?
Maybe, right? Or is that is that where the two soap bubbles met, right? And one got through. When those Navy pilots went on 60 Minutes in uniform, I believe, if I remember correctly, to talk about and share the video, that to me, that blew my mind, because I'm like, they didn't go rogue. They didn't just say, hey, forget the chain of command. Let's go on 60 Minutes and share this video. That was authorized all the way to the top. You are allowed to do this. You're allowed to show this classified video. You're allowed to talk about it with the news, with 60 Minutes, right? I was like, so people talk about disclosure with UFOs. I think it's happening in little pieces, drips and drabs here and there. You don't just tell everyone everything all at once. It's too much. So you put some Navy pilots up. You tell the Pope, you should warn the flock. We might find life on other planets. And that's going to be pretty tough for some people to hear, because what does that mean about, their religious life here? If there's life on other planets, when the Pope says like, hey, life on other planets doesn't negate our Bible, oh, why would you say that?
Right.
Why would like someone told you something? You know what I mean? Someone said like, look, it could be a matter of time before we find a little bug scurrying across Mars. And then, there's life on other planets. So what if, right? So it's either disclosure and what if disclosure is like, we say ETs, extraterrestrials, UFOs from different worlds, but what if they're from our world, just not our time?
Right.
And obviously, when those Navy pilots were on 60 Minutes, what the government and the military was saying to all of America is, we don't know what this is. It's beyond us. There's nothing we can do about it. That's what they were saying. That's the takeaway, right? Mm-hmm. If there was something we could do about it, would say, don't worry, we got this crazy laser that can just zap them out if we want to. But they don't, right? Because they don't know what it is. And they told us that on 60 Minutes.
That's the scary part, right? It is,
right.
Is they admit we can't do anything about it. Even during the drone crisis, right? That earlier this year, they admitted when these drones were coming down on military bases, we can't defend against them.
Right.
We don't have a way to defend against them.
So, this is a case of the government not knowing what the right hand is. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. Mm-hmm. A few weeks ago, I believe it was the El Paso airport was going to be shut down for 10 days abruptly.
Yes.
Like, hey, any flights in or out of there, 10 days canceled. And you're like, what? Why? You need to give a reason. You can't just shut down an airport. It's not the biggest airport, but it's not the smallest either, And then eventually it came out that they had a drone nearby that they shot out of the sky with a laser. And they thought it was drug cartels. They thought it was this. They thought it was that. Either way, they didn't want commercial planes or any aircraft, for that matter, in the area if they're shooting lasers at drones. Turned out it was Border Patrol's drone shot down by our own country, right? So, like, just, well done, everybody. Like, way to communicate.
Good job.
And you shut down the airport. Well, it wasn't 10 days. It turned out to be like hours. But at the same time, flights were canceled. You messed up the schedule across the country because there's a domino effect. As you know, if one airport gets shut down, airports on the other side of the country get messed up because they expected planes to come in and so on. All that because of a mistake. But we have lasers that can shoot out drones, right? And we can even shoot our own drones that are doing Border Patrol work. But well done. But, so we do have certain technologies, but at the same time, man, like that 60 Minutes interview blew my mind.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, what does this mean? I think time slip, is as good a reason as any other. Because where does that tic tac go? Right now, they said it could move 80,000 feet in a second.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't have anything that can do that. Not in the atmosphere. There's all a bunch of resistance. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? It means someone's here, but instead of worrying that it's like extraterrestrials that want something from us, maybe it's just us trying to observe where things went wrong.
Yeah. Or, trying to, like you said, or trying to go back in the past and seeing if there's anything they can do to avoid their future or their present, right?
Right. Yeah. What's the point? Like where you make alterations, right? You don't want to do something drastic, but is there a little tiny thing you can do? Also, speaking of those Tic Tacs, not the first time they've been seen by military aircraft, right?
Right.
The Foo Fighters in World War II were described as like glowing balls that didn't seem to interfere with the planes, but they were spotted by many pilots, British pilots, American pilots, right? Like they would see these things while they're dogfighting, while they're in formation, flying over, Germany and other countries, and they would see these things. They were photographed. There's photographs of these things. They called them Foo Fighters, and they just seemed to sort of be observing, and then they were gone. So maybe the Foo Fighters never left, or maybe they only show up when things are getting bad, to sort of say like, are there some minor tweaks we can make here and there that will have a massive effect? Like there's things we can never know, right? Like the butterfly effect, which is so well posited by Ray Bradbury in his old story, right? Like the idea is that one day time travel is invented. Hunters can pay an exorbitant amount of money to go back and shoot a dinosaur, but you can only shoot a dinosaur that they knew was going to die naturally that day. Mm-hmm. They would scope it out for you. They'd say that one, you can kill that one, nothing else. And one day someone's walking on the path that you're supposed to stay on, and they slip and they fall off the path and they step on a butterfly. No big deal. No big deal. And then they come back to present day, to a world they don't recognize, because that butterfly was going to be a meal for some other animal that ended up dying. And the chain reaction over millions and millions of years turned into something devastating and catastrophic. And we don't know what little things we do, those decisions we make each and every day, go right at the end of the street, go left at the end of the street, right? Have a burger for lunch, have a piece of pizza. We don't know the ramifications a week from now, a month from now, 1,000 years from now, what that did. What if you bought a slice of pizza and that was just enough money to make that restaurant survive another month, to become successful, to become such a wealthy franchise owner that they literally one day controlled the world with their magic awesome pizza and ruled with an iron fist. And you bought the slice of pizza that got us to ruin, generations from now, right? You don't know. You were just hungry and wanted pizza. We've talked about pizza a lot, Tim. Why is that?
I don't know. Maybe you've got pizza on the brain, Jeff.
I do have pizza on the brain. It is nature's perfect food.
It is. I meant to mention earlier, and I never did, our friends at Jelly Bean and Julia's Barbecue. Can I do this real quick?
Yeah, please.
All right. Before we go today, let's mention Jelly Bean and Julia's Barbecue. Of course, we're on the weekend. That means Friday is smoked prime rib day, Jeff. Smoked prime rib. Oh,
now I don't want pizza. Now I don't want pizza anymore.
I'm telling you. They have a wonderful smoked prime rib special on Friday. Of course, it's a smoked prime rib. It's a tequila berries salad, which has that wonderful, sweet, tangy dressing on it. It's world famous here in Coon Rapids, Minnesota. I got to tell you, it's if you've chef's kiss. It's beautiful. You've got the Boston baked potato that comes with it. Everything, all the fixings. Get down there. It's available until it's gone, folks. On Friday, of course, you've got live bands on Saturday and much, much more. Jelly Bean and Julia's is a sponsor of today's program. We've got a link in the description of this program so you can go visit Jelly Bean and Julia's. Thank you so much for sponsoring today's program. Okay, so Jeff.
Yes.
As we begin to wrap up today, time itself and time travel, we can connect it to what may be paranormal phenomena. We can connect it to, well, let's just put it this way. We can connect time in itself to everything that rules our world, right? Basically, sure. Time is what frustrates us. What rules us. We look at a watch from the time we begin to start to, form our work life, our school life, to the time that we're counting down the clock to death, right? Where we're looking at that watch and going, how much time do we have left?
Yeah.
So why do we create this cage or this construct? Why can't we look away from time and just live life?
Well, Tim, because I have bills. You have bills. Yeah, you're right. So we've become so interconnected. Look, a couple thousand years ago, the most people you would meet in your lifetime is about 100 people. That's all the people you would ever meet in your whole life. 100 people. Maybe a little bit more if you were living closer to a city. Maybe less if you lived out in a more rural area. That's it. That's all you'd ever know. Your world was not that interconnected. Now, if we're going to have jets and Zooms and FaceTimes and real times and cell phones and cars that can go, 100 miles an hour and everything else, we have voluntarily enslaved ourselves to this concept of time so we can line everything up, all the stuff we have to do to maintain our lives. That being said, we know some people go off the grid. I get it, right? They want to break those shackles. And that's fine if that's for you. Some of us like, central heat. some of us like having a flat screen TV and an Xbox, you know what I mean? And getting pizza or barbecue delivered, once in a while. And so if we're going to do that, we have to sync up, we have to coordinate, we have to sync our watches and say, all right, we're going to work from 9 to 5. We're going to, take on this project at this time so we can all be there together. It has to be, it forces us to cooperate. So that's the upside. The downside is we are literally enslaved to it at this point. And I saw someone once talking about how, if the very first thing you do in the morning is reach for your phone, and your phone is, by the way, part clock, right? I mean, that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
So if the first thing you do is reach for your phone and then open it up, like you're literally moving into slavery the moment you wake up. And the idea was, can you go 30 minutes before you touch it? Can you just wake up, have your coffee or your tea or whatever, have some breakfast, stare outside? Could you try that? Could you try to maybe break the shackle a little bit? Because these phones have made things worse, right? The clock is always on us. Ways to reach us and make appointments is always on us 24/7. And so, the more we become obsessed and enslaved by time, maybe the more we start thinking about, well, shoot, if I could travel within it or around it, what could I accomplish? What insight could I gain? Could I make better decisions and so on? And I think that's one of the reasons that, time travel feels so relevant right now, because the further along we get, the more obsessed we become with time. It started with those damn farmers, Tim. 12,000 years ago, they're like, we're going to stay put. I'll grow the food. You come up with the innovations. And ever since then, it's just gotten worse and worse as we've just sort of said, like, all right, if we're going to stay put, then time is everything.
One last one. Before he passed, Art Bell came up with the idea of the quickening, the idea that time was speeding up. And there have been articles since then that scientists have said, well, we do believe that time is getting faster, or at least the older you get, it feels like time is speeding up, and they've come up with a scientific explanation as to why. I won't go into it, but the idea that as you get older, time speeds up. Do you believe in that theory?
Yeah, well, sure. Think about it. When you were 10, if you had a memory from when you were 5, half your life ago, it's just 5 years ago. Right. So the longer we live, the more distance there is, and the more finite and more aware we become of what we have left. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We're both over the hill, Tim.
Oh, yeah.
If we're honest.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What are the odds we're going to double our current age? I doubt it.
No.
I don't think I will.
Yeah.
I think we're more than halfway through, and that can be a really frightening thing, or it can be an empowering thing. But that's up to you. Mm-hmm. Where you say, like, hey, I got some life experience, and I got some things I want to do with whatever I have left. Now, obviously, we might have decades left. We might have minutes left. Who knows, right? There could be some asteroid coming right now. And boy, would that be a killer. That would get some downloads, my man.
Yeah, what?
Like, you're just like, also you just like, oh, Jeff's last interview. Like, it's cool. Like, watch the asteroid hit. I don't wish that for me.
No, I don't wish that for either of us.
But at the same time, we don't know what we have. And it is a construct. It's not real. But as not real as it is, boy, it's as close to... We've created a time tulpa, right? We've created a time thought form. We have made it real because it controls our everyday lives. And I think part of the reason I love the paranormal is it allows me to dude, I visit the past all the time in my work. Like when I read an old newspaper article from 1890, I'm back in 1890. When I walk into some of these historic sites and I'm walking around going, wow, this place was built in 1790 or whatever. Like I'm there, you know, I time travel all the time. I've done it with you. We've gone to like old prisons and buildings and stuff like that, where you're just like, wow, we are in another time and place. Now, of course, we know it's modern day in our heads, but we're visiting. You know, we're back there, we're breathing it in, imagining. And when you explore the past, you realize how we got to the present. And if you can figure that out, well, maybe you can alter a better future.
That's true. That's true. If you could go back to one time, one place, one time, if you could take a time machine and go right back to that place, where would you go?
My brother-in-law, Chris, died from cancer. And it was a diagnosis that took us all by surprise. And by the time it was discovered, he was already stage 4 cancer. And I feel like if I could just go back a few years before that, I could say, I need you to go get scans and blood work and everything you could possibly get right now. And then my nephew would still have a dad. Yeah. That's selfish, personal, but it's something I would have liked to change.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, here it is right here. Shadow Zine number 11. We have a link in the description of this program. Jeff Belanger. It is, I love this, man. I love the idea of the Shadow Zine. I love the idea of being able to take a topic and expound on it a little bit and have it in a nice little bite-size, nice little bite-size for people to absorb and go get more information on and being able to stimulate the imagination, right?
Comic books for adults, right?
That's right. I like that. Comic books for adults. Exactly. Yeah. And also
zine, man. Zines. I started in zines. It's so fun to do it again and like have a zine. I love having a zine.
That's right. And also Wicked Strange is out there as well. Your guide to ghost monsters, oddities, and urban legends from New England. We have links to both in the description of this program. So Jeff Belanger, thank you so much again, my friend, for joining us today.
Thanks, Tim. Good talking to you. I wish we had more time.
I see what you did there. Thank you so much, my friend. Folks, we're on the weekend, and that means only one thing. Boy, we got lots of stuff going on. First of all, go to the store, darknessradioshow.com, to the store, support the show. We've got hoodies, we got t-shirts, we got mugs, we got rocks glasses, so you can go have a cocktail, beanies, and much, much more. Both Darkness Radio and True Crime Tuesday swag. So go pick that up. Also, the Apple app will be updated sometime this weekend, so go get that and get your update with iOS 26. There's an update to be got there. And we're on the weekend as well, and you have plans to go do whatever. I know it's warm here in the Twin Cities. We're supposed to get in the 50s this weekend, so that means that there's spring cleanup to be done. You have elderly and disabled people in your community or in your family, either one, that are going to need help with that spring cleanup. Be a light in someone's darkness. Go out there and help the elderly and disabled in your community and family this weekend. A message from your friends here at Darkness Radio. For Mally Fox, for Travis Thorpe, for Jessica Freeberg, I'm Tim Dennis. Thank you so much for continuing to listen and watch the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio.